Okay. Well, this morning we are going to begin. And most of our session today is giving some input, but it's things that we understood people were really wanting. So I am going to hand it over to Brad. He's going to explain what we're going to be looking at today. And I'm just going to open us in a prayer for our session. Father, thank you for today, and I thank you that you've brought us together across nations, across places, and that we can gather together, even if it's not in person. I think this is fascinating, and even yesterday, being reminded how, in some form, we have part of the inheritance in this technology, as Howard paved a way to some degree and helped with the technology and the movement forward. Father, we thank you for this capacity, and we thank you that we can be together today. I ask that you would speak to us the things that you have for us individually in today, as well as what you have for us as a nation, as South America. What you are doing in and through this time together. Thank
you. When we asked all of you as a group some of the things that you wanted to learn, there were a number of questions about how the U of N worked. And so that's what this morning's session is about. We'll begin by looking at the structure of the U of N and how that relates with YWAM. We'll go on to looking at the process for a student getting a degree. Then we'll have a bit of a break and we'll look at core courses and extension studies. These were all things that you asked about. At the end of that time, we expect we'll have a period where we can make it open for questions. So if anyone still has other questions about the way the U of M works technically,
una manera cómo funciona la
there'll
asociación
be
de texto,
opportunity to actually to ask some of those questions, and hopefully we'll have answers, or at least be able to direct you to those that do. So that's the way we'll be going through things today. For my part on the structure of the University of the Nations, I did put in the WhatsApp, the PowerPoint in different languages and the handout version of that. So you should all have that available to you. Once again, I'll be sharing screen with the English version. Those are also in the Google Drive if you want to get them, the Google Classroom, if you want to get them from there. So let me start to share the PowerPoint and we'll make our way through it. So, as I said, going to be looking at the structure of the U of N, University of the Nations, this morning. But the University of the Nations is quite different to a lot of other organizations. It's actually very difficult to describe how we work together, how we are structured. And then when you think about how that ties in with YWAM, it becomes even more complicated. Someone once said, how do you describe the structure of what is the most complex organization in the world? I don't know whether anyone's actually done the research to say that YWAM or the U of N is the most complex organization in the world, but I think it very well might be, when you consider all of the kinds of dynamics that we have operating within our mission and within our university. We're the only truly global university where we are one university in many, many nations, and those parts of us that are in those nations make up that university. So if we're going to describe the University of Nations, perhaps it can be done like this, do you think? Is it like, we have someone, this diagram has a president at the top. Marcus Stephan is our president, and then we have all the layers beneath in a nice, neat, ordered structure. Well, you probably know already that that's not the way the U of N is. We don't fit that kind of a structure. We're not that kind of an organization where it's simple to describe us. One illustration that I like that helps us, rather than that kind of very clear, ordered structure, we're a little bit less ordered, a bit like this tree that you've got the picture of in front of you with the PowerPoint. In some places of the world, these trees are called banyan trees. Where I grew up in North Queensland, we had something similar. They were called Moreton Bay fig trees. But the thing I want to point out is that YWAM and the U of N are both much more of an organic, growing structure than just an organization chart can show. With these trees, there is a kind of a central trunk, but even with that central trunk, you'll see some of these vines growing around it and becoming fused with that central trunk. There's many components to that central trunk. And then going out from that, you start to see these larger branches spread out. And I like this particular illustration because they spread out a very, very long way. And we do spread as the University of the Nations across all the world. As these branches grow out, they start to drop down thin vines. You can see some of the thin ones coming down from some of the branches. They start out that way, but then they go down, they grow, they start to touch the earth. As they touch the earth, they form new roots, and then they get thicker and stronger. And eventually it's like they form a new trunk out of a group of vines. And that's like how new bases often grow, how new schools often grow. There's something in the soil there, there's something in the branch that has life, and it finds strength, and it grows, and it becomes something solid that we can recognize. So we grow, and we function much more in this organic kind of a way. There is, for the U of N, still something central to this. There's something that ties us together. There's a structure that helps us to operate and function and be called the University of the Nations. But the life of the University of the Nations isn't only in the trunk. It's in the branches, and it's in these new trunks that form as the branches spread out across the world. I really like that illustration because it's about life and it's about growth. But then if we're going to try to describe an actual structure, you see me scratching my head. That's because it's kind of hard to do. Talked with Tom Bloomer about this a number of times. And he said, oh, we need some sort of three-dimensional illustration that can describe this. And I searched and tried and drew on my own. And then I asked God one day, and the strangest thing came to mind. All right, I'm going to stop sharing so you can see this a little bit clearly. This little thing here, as you can see, it's a ball. It's the ball that's used for the game of cricket. That's quite popular in Commonwealth nations around the world and almost unknown in just about every other nation. So you may not have seen the game of cricket, but the cricket ball has a particular makeup, a particular design that actually helps us understand a little bit of the structure of the U of N. You can see it's in two halves. The outer structure is in two halves, and the two halves are sewn in to the rest of the structure that's underneath. In the PowerPoint, I'm going to show you what it looks like underneath. So let's start to share the screen again. And you may have already gone on to this slide. So here's the cricket ball cut open. In the middle of the cricket ball, there's a hard cork and rubber center. And for me in this illustration, that represents a school in the U of N. Your school if you're running a school. That's at the center of everything. A school has its structure, a school has its particular characteristics. So at the center is the school. But the school is embedded in a base. So we have this second layer of what is in a cricket ball, woolen yarn, sheets of cork, bits and pieces. And they add some protection around that central layer. In the game of cricket, this ball gets hit pretty hard by a wooden bat. And if it was just that cork center, it would break very quickly. It needs that cushioning around and the protection around in that other layer. The base provides a home. The base provides support. The base provides protection for the school. And the ministry, the vision of the base is where the school is embedded. So they are so very, very closely aligned. They can't, the school cannot live outside the context of a base. We saw that in the prophetic element, the last one we mentioned from Tom yesterday, being school as part of a community in YWAM. And then outside of that again is this leather layer that I showed you in this ball. It doesn't quite show it in the illustration, but it is in two halves. And what I think about there, this outer layer is, as I said, it's leather. It makes the outer part of it hard again for striking the bat. It gives the ball a lot of its effectiveness in the way it flies through the air, right? So it gives some additional structure to the ball. But the two halves for me represent, firstly, on one side, the University of the Nations. So the University of the Nations relates to the base, and within the base is the school. But the other side is YWAM, the rest of the YWAM network and structure. And it also relates to the base, and in the base is the school. So we have these two influences around the school, two aspects of relating to the base, one from the U of N and one for the rest of the YWAM structure. And in each of these halves, the U of N is sewn into and connected to the base, and through the base connected to the school. YWAM is also sewn and connected to the base, and through the base connected to the school. And these together form the structure through which we operate. We cannot separate one from the other. We need both. Okay, like any illustration, you can probably try to push it too far. I'm not going to do that, but I think it illustrates some of the aspects of the way U of N and YWAM work together around the base and around the school. Let's go on to the next slide. Another thought that came to me as I was trying to describe the U of N, is it the U of N an institution or is it a movement? Well, to answer that, I want to share an illustration from science. When we deal with light in science, sometimes light has the properties of a wave. I just remembering, as I do that, I'm remembering the legacy word, the waves. That's not what I'm talking about here, of course, but light has the property of a wave. But at other times, light has the property of a particle. And a scientist can't work with light unless they understand it from both perspectives, being a wave and a particle. It's not either one or the other, it's both. So if you're asking that question, is the University of the Nations an institution or a movement? Well, there are some aspects of an institution. We have some structure to it. We have some lines of authority, yes, but it's a very relational, caring, family kind of authority. We have some structure. We have some policies and procedures. There is some aspects of institution, but it's also got many of the aspects of a movement. It's about the dynamic, free flowing growth. The direction of the U of N is as much directed by a school and by a base as it is from any leadership. What God is doing on a base shapes the U of N and gives life to the U of N. It's that movement and the energy going out. It's properties similar to the properties of the family as well. We can't really just be one illustration here. We have family, we have our relationship. We talk together, we work together, we fellowship together, we seek God together. So the U of N has so many dynamics to it. And somebody said yesterday, wow, what a university we're a part of. I think we can say that again when we look at this. I love that we're more than just an institution with a top-down organizational structure, but that we have all of these other aspects to us that God has built in. Just so that you understand what some of those parts of the U of N body are, parts of that movement that's also an institution. We have a board of regents. We have an advisory board. We have a core international leadership team. And within that, we've got representatives from colleges and centers, representatives from the provost's office, which includes registrars like Miriam and Natalia. We've got representatives from the president's office. And we also have something called Team 4. I'm going to try to explain some of these to you, just so they have some understanding. The Board of Regents is like an eldership type of relationship over the University of the Nations. It's made up of some senior YWAM leaders from around the world. It's also has the U of M president, who is Marcus Stefan, and the U of M provost, who has been Maureen Menard, but actually we're in a process of making some changes there. We're in a really dynamic time with the whole U of N, and we're seeing some changes to our structure at the moment. And if I was going to present this in another 12 months' time, it'd probably look a bit different. But this is what we're still operating with at the moment. What's the role of the Board of Regents? What does it do? Well, I already used the word eldership. It is that kind of aspect of senior, experienced men and women of God looking at the U of N with perspective of what God has said to the U of N, and ensuring that we adhere to and follow those founding principles that we've been talking about yesterday, that we maintain Christian values, these aspects that characterize who YWAM is. So it's that kind of quality aspect that they're ensuring remains. Then there's an advisory board. The advisory board is kind of like an extra group that can speak into the U of N in a sense from the outside. This group is made up of people who have to be invited, and they're represented from different nations. They serve society in different roles, such as business and government and technology and law, banking, church leadership. The spheres are represented through this advisory board and able to speak into the U of N. They provide us with valuable information, valuable counsel, valuable advice. And they serve the U of N by sharing their wisdom that they've gained in their spheres of society. Then we move on to the president's office. For many years, Lauren Cunningham was the president of the U of N. Currently, that is, as I said, Marcus Stefan, who's based in Switzerland, but does a lot of traveling. This is like an overall headship, but even when I use the word headship, remember what we talked about with servant leadership. This isn't authority like the world often has authority. But this is where the vision of the U of N is maintained and shared, and they kind of have that coordinating aspect. The president's office also communicates the U of N to the rest of YWAM and to the body of Christ, and they promote the development of new initiatives, which come, as I said, through the bases. They also have the aspect of accountability. Is YWAM going astray? Is the U of N going astray in any way? Are there course corrections that we have to make to keep us on track with the word of the Lord? The finances and legal aspects of the U of N rest with the president's office. Website and marketing may be working with the provost's office a bit as well in that area. And the president's office also draws together base leaders and connects the U of N to bases through something called the President's Gathering. So you'll remember how with that cricket ball, we had the two halves, but the president's office kind of brings the two halves together and with the President's Gathering. And base leaders are represented on that, so the U of N is never separated from base leaders. In fact, I think it's 3 members out of that President's Gathering are part of the core international leadership team as well. So the base leaders are always part of the decision making that happens. Then we have the Provost's office. That's who I work with, the Provost's office. Anna works with Anna and Melinda and Lisa are part of a staff training team which comes within the Provost's office. Melinda has another role there in regard to approving courses. The Provost's office is just what helps keep the U of N functioning. A lot of the internal functions of the U of N are connected through the Provost's office and maintained by the Provost's office. The academic standards, the academic vision, how we maintain that, how we are a university that does things well. The Provost's office is very much a part of that. And we've had an academic affairs team for a number of years. That too is growing and changing as we move forward into the new developments in the university. Records of the U of N and the registrars, they're also part of the Provost's office. Records are so important. Do not dismiss the value of records. How can we commend somebody to somebody else unless we've recorded that? How can we say this person has been equipped by God for this task unless we've looked at them, evaluated them, written that down in a way that we can confirm and agree upon, and then demonstrate that, speak that out to somebody else, as well as to the student themselves. Records are so important. They tell our story as well. I could get into a lot about records. I won't do that, but records are important. Please do value them. We might look at them as hard work filling out forms, but that is just so valuable and so important, and the registrars can really help with that. The issuing of degrees and administering degrees, that comes through the Provost's office. And the final course registration approval, a school, that central part of the cricket ball, then the base, then the colleges and centers, and then the Provost's office. The courses go through that whole series of approval processes. But I do some of those approvals, and I want to say one thing. The approval isn't just about yes, no, good, bad. The heart of the approvers, the heart of the Provost's office, the heart of the colleges and centers, is to serve you as schools, to give input and advice to help your school be as effective as possible. So we have some things that we might say at times, but the purpose of that isn't about rules. It's about what brings excellence, what helps us to be effective. And that's the kind of relationship we have in the approval process. Let me mention colleges. Once again, I'm referring back to this tree, because the colleges too have organic growth. New branches can come as great strength starts to emerge in different places, in different ways. And just over the last couple of years, we've moved from 7 colleges, which we've had since the very beginning of the U of N, to 10 colleges. Here are the 10 colleges. We have the College of Arts. Shout out to anybody who's in the College of the Arts. Ellie and Jimmy, I know you've been here. I hope you're here today. College of Sports, College of Humanities. Another one of our newest colleges, Applied Linguistics and Languages. That's not just about translation, that's about the impact of language in the world. And it's a whole sphere in itself. It's a whole area to be really developed. And it's exciting things happening there. The College of Counseling, which is now separated from the College of Healthcare. I used to be in that college when we were together. We're now set up separately, but we're still very much united as well. And this is an aspect of growth and expansion. The College of Christian Ministries, which encompasses so many of our schools, all the Bible schools that Anna and Melinda have been a part of, they're in there. The DBS that was being mentioned yesterday, Ulysses was mentioning that. College of Education that Lisa works with, College of Science and Technology, and the College of Communication. If you want to find out more about any of these, go to the U of N website. It's really helpful for school leaders and school staff to visit that U of N website and become familiar with all of the exciting, all of the innovative, all of the great ideas that have emerged as schools and colleges in the U of N. Taking that back, connecting it to that word transformation. These are the ways God is bringing transformation through the U of N. This is not just structure. This is life. This is transformation. Colleges oversee their area of learning. They give guidance and support for schools and for school leaders. They're involved with curriculum development. And they, like I was saying, review those course registrations to help ensure that our schools are strong and effective. They also develop degrees. They give academic advising and help degree students get through that degree process that Miriam's going to explain a bit more of. They help develop resources, build links and relationships. And they partner with bases and with people with vision to see new schools grow. Just on that last point, if you are starting a new school, if God is speaking something to you that you believe has not been done before and you want to pursue that, connect up with a college as early as you possibly can. We like to hear from you early. We love innovation. We love to share with you and support you in that process. And then when it comes to actually register that new school, because we've already got relationship where we're working with you and advising, that registration process becomes much, much easier. We have centers. Our centers kind of combine across colleges and across different areas of learning. Or they might have a focus in a sphere, like the first one listed here, the Center for Community Development and Justice. One that everybody's familiar with, the Center for Discipleship Training Schools, I think there's a couple of people in this group who are maybe connected with that. Let's all wave to Carlina, because Carlina heads up that center. We also have a family resource center. We have the Genesis Center. Hey, let's all wave at Adriano because that's his center. And that helps us communicate, helps us be innovative in the ways we do training, just like we're doing in this course, this series of sessions. We have a student mobilization center that works with universities that are not the U of N to help their students get experience and exposure in the spheres by connecting them up with YWAM outreaches. That's an amazing center and service that they do. We have the Extension Studies Center. Lisa will explain more about extension studies later. We have the Center for Core Curriculum. Melinda's going to share a bit more on that. We have the Center for Economic Development and the Center for Christian Formation and Discipleship. Again, go to the website, learn more about these. They're also explained a little bit in the U of N reference guide. Centers are about, as I said, collaboration and cooperation. It's connecting people together and serving across a wide band of people. They're also to fulfill specific missions objectives. Christian formation and discipleship is a focus. They integrate, they network resources and people together. They build partnerships, and they work with colleges to develop training programs and schools that serve their objectives. Some schools are registered directly in colleges, others in centers, I mean. Others will be registered in colleges, but very much relate to a center. Then the Core International Leadership Team. This is a group of people that usually we meet together every 2 years, face to face. We were scheduled to do that in March last year, and a certain event happened around the world. Just as I was looking to board a plane, I had to stop that. Not the very day, but I think it was the week before I was due to get on a plane. Had to try to get money back on my ticket because we couldn't meet together in Mexico. But it's been amazing. We've been meeting so much in 2019 and 2020 through Zoom. God's been doing amazing things in our meetings together, our seeking Him together, as we look at the way the U of N is reshaping itself to move into the next phase that God has for us. As we said, there's the Provost's office represented in there, including the registrars, the President's office, and President's Gathering. Okay, I hadn't mentioned Team 4 yet. Team 4 is like a group of the core leaders. It's the President, Maureen, David Hamilton, and they sometimes invite some other people to work with them, just to have a small group that looks at some of the things that are happening and brings some of the agenda for the Core International Leadership Team. That agenda works 2 ways though. The agenda can come from anywhere, but then the Team 4 manages that discussion process through which we see decisions made for the U of N. That's in some ways still a brief summary, but hopefully it's giving you some sort of a picture of how we are as the U of N, some of the different offices and groups that we have. But really what I want you to take away is that we're not a simple organization that can be put into a diagram. We're a very complicated organization that has these dynamics of being a movement as well as an institution and being a family. So I love the U of N. I love that we're like that. And yeah, it's great to be a part of that and part of the leadership of the U of N through the Provost's office. I'm going to stop my screen sharing. I'm not going to pause now for questions because we do have a question time later. So if you do have any more questions about structure, take a note of them right now so you don't forget them, and you can ask those later on. Right now, I'm going to hand over to Miriam, who's going to share about the degree process.
Okay, so that's an exciting thing that many of you have asked about, and I would like to share my screen with you guys. Oh, okay, just a minute. I have the last. Sorry about that. Give me here. Otherwise, we will begin from the end. Okay. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Now, I think I am on track. Okay, can you all see my screen? Is that okay? Okay, let me maybe drag this a little bit more. Okay, so as you know, each college has an official academic advisor. And he's the one that approves a degree planning and also works with the student so that he can complete all the requirements of the degree that they chose. But all of us, especially if you are a school leader and school staff, you should know the basics of a degree program to help your students and to guide them. And as a matter of fact, we YWAMers that are in a YWAM base and have very close contact with the students, we are in a very privileged position to walk alongside that student and help him get all the answers that he needs to decide about a degree and to complete a degree. One thing that we say about the U of M is that it's a multiplier for missions. And thinking about that characteristic, we know that the U of M, its primary goal, primary purpose, is not to simply grant degrees. Our main purpose in the U of M is the advancement of the kingdom. So when a student comes to ask, how can I get a U of M degree? The very first question that you have to ask them is, what has God called you to do? What has God called you to be? And we have the privilege of praying with that student and discovering with him what God has already deposited in them that God wants to use for the advancement of the kingdom. How God has created them and so that they can fulfill the calling of God in their lives. And then after we discover that with the student, we will check what courses or U of M degree will better prepare that student to fulfill the calling of God. Okay, but today we're going to talk about some of the elements of a degree program. What are the basic information that all of us should know? Okay, so here in this slide, you can see that on top, I put the U of M degree levels. And on the bottom, I researched the internet to see what are the equivalent degree levels in Colombia, Chile, and Brazil. Every country has their own degree pathway, their learning pathway. So it varies very much from country to country. So it's good for us to know what are the equivalent in a country for comparison's sake. But whenever we talk to our students, we refer them to the ULaFan degree levels. So we have an associate and bachelor degree in an undergraduate level, and we have master's in a graduate level, and we have future plans for doctoral degrees. And each degree requires a minimum number of credits. So for an associate level, it's 84. For bachelor, it's 144 credits. And for master, it's 48 credits. But note that for the associate and bachelor degrees, the GTS credits is included in the 84 and 144 credits. Not so with a master degree. For a master's degree, we have some additional requirements. The GTS is a prerequisite. So the master's student should have a previous GTS, also should have a bachelor degree or equivalent, and also a Bible course. And the Bible course doesn't need to be done with the ULaFan, but it has to have a curriculum that is similar to the Bible core curriculum, okay? Okay, so just out of curiosity, I got a report from the ULaFan record system, and I saw that today in South America, we have 677 students with at least 72 credits, meaning that if they complete one school, which is 12 credits, they will have the 84 credits. And out of those 677 students, 431 already have the 84 credits. So when we look at this information, can we come to the conclusion that very soon we can have 700 new ULaFan graduates in South America? And probably this is the most common misunderstanding among our students. Whenever I talk about degrees, this is a very common question from the students. They come to me with the list of their courses and they say, hey, I've done a GTS, I've done this, I have 84 credits. What diploma can I have? And generally, the answer is none. And this is because every degree requires certain courses, has required courses, and a degree is never granted simply by accumulating the right number of credits. Each degree requires certain courses and they build upon each other to give the required knowledge, the required skills for that degree. So in very general terms, okay, just in general, this is the progression. We need a GTS, then a core curriculum course, a foundational course, advanced course, and some electives or directed studies or seminars. And the number of different courses, how many core courses or advanced courses or foundational courses we need, it will depend if it's an associate or a bachelor degree. Okay, so here I have an example of an actual degree for us to see this progression take place. Okay, so this is an Associate of Arts in Counseling. And you can see here that we have the prerequisite of the GTS. Then there is the requirement of one core curriculum course. And in this specific associate degree, the student can choose one of the courses on the 3 categories we have. Then we have a foundational course, which is the Foundations for Counseling. And the student can choose one of these 3 options of advanced courses. And then to complete the required 84 credits, the student can do some directed studies or seminars, and it's in agreement with the academic advisor. It can't just be any course. That's why we have a degree planning form that is submitted to the college, and the academic advisor will work with the student to approve the planning, okay? Okay, now I want to go through some academic information, and I am going to go very lightly over each one of them, because this information can also be found in the ULOFN catalog, in the ulofn.edu website, and in more details in the ULOFN reference guide. That, as you know, it's a very important collection of documents that you should be familiar with. And also, we have uploaded to the Google Classroom the more details about the ULOFN degree process, and you can find PDF documents in English, Portuguese, and Spanish. Okay? So now let's go to some of the academic information. The first one we already mentioned a few times these days is about the DTS prerequisite. And yesterday morning, Brad mentioned to us that this is one of the 9 prophetic elements of the ULOFN. So God is the one that gave that to us, and actually it's a gift for our mission to have a DTS foundation for all our degree students. And it was written down as a guideline in December of 1984. So it's 36 years of this guideline. In other words, there is no excuse for a YWAMer, especially a course leader, to not know about this guideline. If you go to any of your own YWAM websites, it's written there that DTS is the entry door. It's the entryway to be staff in YWAM and also to any other second level courses. And the only exception being seminars that anybody can do prior to a DTS and keep the credits. So this, in very practical terms, mean that if a student does a second level course prior to the DTS, the student cannot receive ULOFN credits or certificate right then or after he does a DTS, because a DTS is not something that you can do anytime you want. It's a prerequisite. Another requirement is a cross-cultural requirement. And what we did, we divided the world into 8 zones, and they are listed in the reference guide with the countries that belong to each zone. And the idea behind that is to provide the student with cross-cultural experience. And it's a requirement for bachelor and master degrees. And there are different ways that this requirement can be met. And generally, the academic advisor will talk to the student and find the best way for that student to fulfill this requirement. But most always, this can be met by completing 2 lecture phases with the outreach phases, if applicable, in a zone other than the one which the student holds their nationality, in a zone that will provide cross-cultural experience. And another way is by life experience. If the student has lived for 2 or more years as a teenager or adult in a zone different than the one that they hold their nationality, and that will provide cross-cultural experience. Core curriculum requirement, Melinda is going to talk about that, but all I'm going to say is that as it relates to degrees, it's required for all bachelors and for some associate degrees. Okay. Now, general transfer credits. Those are the credits that you can transfer to a U of M degree that you did in another university. And there is a limit of max number of credits that can be transferred. To associate level is a max of 24. A bachelor degree, it's a max of 72 credits. And for the master's level, we do accept a Bible course, as I said before. And generally, the 48 credits is just the U of M courses, but in some cases, at the discretion of each college, a master degree may accept a transfer credit. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that transfer credits are evaluated case by case upon approval of both the college and the provost. Okay, so and it will depend on the curriculum, what was the syllabus of what you did in another institution, and what course in your U of M degree that you want to substitute. And keep in mind that 1 credit in another institution does not equal 1 credit in the U of M. Extension studies, Lisa is going to talk more about it. And all I'm going to say in relation to a degree program is that it may be included as a transfer credit. And it's also evaluated case by case. Okay. Another important point, especially for you guys that are course leaders, is that each degree level requires the student to keep a grade point average. So for undergraduate level, which is associate and bachelor, the student has to keep a C average, and on a master's level, a B average. And an important point for you to keep in mind is that in an undergraduate degree, only 1 D grade is allowed. And this is important for a school leader to keep in mind, because as you evaluate your student and you see that he is going towards a D grade, you can give more attention to that student and work closely with that student to possibly bring his grade to a C. Because if the student has more than 1 grade, that will affect his degree at the end. Okay. Now, if someone comes to you and asks, how can I know how many credits I have? So you direct them to the U of M Records web app, and this is the address, app.ulofm.edu, and they click here on sign up, and under profile, they should choose student profile only, fill out all the necessary information here so that we can create an account for them. After they have access to the web app, they can come here to My Courses, and all the courses that they did will be listed here if they were registered with the U of M. And if any course is not listed, they can open a missing course request, and one of us registrar will investigate what happened that that course is not listed. Okay. And then when the student has already decided what degree they want to pursue, they can come here to PDF forms, click on show forms, and they can fill out the degree program planning form and send that form to the appropriate college advisor. And the list of college advisors is in the ulofm.edu website. And I didn't put it here because we may change that from time to time, who is the academic advisor, but it can be easily found in the ulofm.edu website. Okay? And then when the student has completed most of the requirements, it's only 6 months prior to the date that they want to graduate, they can apply for graduation right here. Okay, and after they complete everything, voila, they can graduate with the U of M. Okay, that's it.
I just wanted to add a couple of quick comments if I can remember what they were. There were things you said as you went through which really struck a chord. I'm sorry. I should have written them down like I told everybody else. My apologies. I'll remember them later and say them again. But that was a wonderful presentation, Miriam. I am struggling a little bit late at night. I'm sorry.
Great job. I really also enjoyed that, Miriam. I haven't heard you present that, and I think it's one of the clearest, if not the clearest, presentation that I've heard. It was wonderful.
Amen.
Amen. I kept getting distracted because I just love the way that you talk as well. It's so encouraging. It's like, yes, I want to get a degree too. Anyway, we're going to have a bit of a break now, and then we will come back and Melinda will be sharing with us about the core curriculum. So we have on the schedule 15 minutes. Is that still good, Brad, do you think? Okay, 15 minutes. We'll, if Adriano can put a timer on for us, that would be awesome. See you guys soon.
And we'll just get that queued up as we're organizing ourselves. We ready, Adriano, for the video?
Thinking about the university, we were gathered in Kona. One of the visiting speakers in Kona that month was Dr. Glenn Martin of Indiana Wesleyan University. And Dr. Martin has studied a lot about what Calvin did in Geneva. Thinking about the university, we were gathered in Kona, and one of the visiting speakers in Kona that month was Dr. Glenn Martin of Indiana Wesleyan University. And Dr. Martin has studied a lot about what Calvin did in Geneva and thinking of Calvin that so influenced the nations. And he had a background in Christian universities, more than one of them. And we asked him to speak to us because we were just putting it together back then. It was somewhere around 84, I think. So he gave us a challenge that day, and it was this: just how biblical do you want your Christian university to be? Because in his experience, he had seen some that called themselves Christian universities but weren't very biblical. And it was a word of the Lord to us that day. And it hit us so hard, it really cut us to the quick, as the word of the Lord does. And it was from his challenge that we came up with the idea of our core courses, such as the Communication, the Biblical View of Man. Who are we in the sight of God? What is our identity in Jesus? And then, of course, the School of Biblical Studies core course, putting the Bible at the center of our 4-year degree track. That came from that word of the Lord that day from Dr. Glenn Martin.
Thank you, Adriano. I'm sorry, I see that there was some translation challenges on the Spanish side, but don't worry. Basically, all you need to know about this particular video is the question that was asked of the University of the Nations is, how biblical do you want your university to be? And this is what we're looking at when we look at the core curriculum courses. Every university has a foundation in which all other courses are built on. And when we were putting together the U of N, this question was central in figuring out what kind of courses should be the core curriculum courses. These were the words of the Lord to us. This was the word of the Lord, that this university should be biblically based. And the foundation should have a foundation of the Bible. And this is where we get our Bible core curriculum courses. Also, our values of how do we then communicate God's word. And that's where we got our core curriculum course in communication. And then how do we think about God's ways in God's world? And then through understanding his ways in his word, how to communicate, and then how to share those with everyone who was, I'm sorry, I'm reading Carlinia's things. Which beginning part did you miss, Carlinia? Unmute yourself so I understand.
Yeah, the beginning, we didn't have translation into Spanish or Portuguese. So if you can just start again, just the beginning. I think it's better to help everybody to understand.
Yeah. Sure, the video or my speaking, or both?
I think we can go after the video. You summarized in the beginning, we can just go forward.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry, guys. You know, you're part of a pioneering movement, and these are teething things. So thank you for letting me know, because we really want you to have the heart of this information. Thank you guys for translating as well, because without translation, I'm just talking. So the point was from the video is that Tom heard very clearly from the word of the Lord that this university should be biblically based, or the question that was asked of him is, how biblical do you want your university to be? And he said there are many universities that start out this way, but actually they go off course and don't have a biblical foundation. And Tom said that this was the word of the Lord in defining the core curriculum courses for us. Specifically, it started with the core curriculum course for the Bible. Then it moved into how do we communicate God's word to God's people, or to the people. And then we move from there also into, not only do we need a foundation of the word, we need to be able to communicate it, but we need to understand how to make it relevant to today's society and to be able to see transformation. So this is the heart of the core curriculum courses. They are to communicate God's word to God's people in God's ways to see transformation. And so we have 3 core curriculum courses: the Bible core course, or the Bible curriculum courses, the applied worldview curriculum courses, and then we also have the communication core curriculum courses. And those courses aren't just one particular course. Many of you work within a lot of these courses. So the foundations of each one of these is to be able to see transformation happen, but also to set a person up, like Miriam said, for their destiny. We don't give them degrees, we don't require certain things because it's just a good idea. We do that as a foundation in the core curriculum courses to be able to launch people to fulfill their destiny, to fulfill God's calling on their life. And that's why we have these core curriculum courses. They prepare the students to engage with cultures and society. So, for example, the Applied Thinking core curriculum course is to engage in transformation of society using the skills of critical thinking and implicational thinking through a biblical worldview. Also understanding all the other worldviews and how the biblical worldview compares or looks at those other worldviews. Then we have the Bible core curriculum, and that's giving our students a foundation in the Word of God, in Scripture. It's how to communicate through understanding who God is. We need to know him in his word. We need to be able to have the skills to then get principles that operate multiculturally, multi-language wise, multinational, in every area. We need to see these principles come out of scripture for transformation. And then in communication, we want to communicate these things effectively. We want to be able to read, write, speak, research, and communicate God's heart in excellence. And how does communication impact the world? You think about, people are constantly speaking through social media these days, through many different venues, video and things like that. And communication is so important to do well, to communicate the truths and the values of God's heart. So there are many possibilities for core curriculum courses. There's not just one of each of these. There are, for example, in the worldview, there's the Transformation School, or a school called the School of Biblical Christian Worldview, which I know some of you work with. There's, in the Bible arena, there's the Bible Core Course, the Bible School for the Nations, Discipleship Bible School, Bible for Life, Phase 1 of the SBS. There's so many opportunities to fulfill these core curriculum courses. And in communication, there's the foundations in communication. And then there's the introduction to communication. So there are many opportunities, and I'm sure that there are many dreams on God's heart for core courses that have yet to be pioneered. What kind of core course or core curriculum course would help you? Brad Tulio saying that the preaching teachings course is also core curriculum. Yes, come on. See, there's so many, and we have room for more creativity. So I just want to encourage you that as we see these core curriculum courses, don't just think of them as our launching pad for getting people into fulfilling their calling, and really being able to do that in such a way that they're equipped with the core elements. And God spoke directly to us to keep our university foundationally solid in this way. And that's why we have core curriculum courses. Inside the Google Classroom, I have put this video, because we maybe missed some of it. You can use the auto translate feature. Also, I put some links to different aspects of the U of N website. How do these fit in, like Miriam was talking about? And then I put these descriptions, and it's at your leisure. But we just wanted to give you the heart of the U of N in this way. I'm going to go over now to Lisa. Lisa's going to look at extension studies.
Well, I'm so excited to talk about extension studies. This is a new tool that we've been given over these last few years to be able to take all the richness of what God has taught us as a mission and in our courses, and open up a place at the table for the body of Christ around the world. Extension courses are designed to offer those outside the mission and people who have busy lives. They're designed to offer in the evenings, the weekends. They don't have to be a full learning week the way the seminars are. And so you can offer them you don't even have to do it physically on a base. It opens up the possibility to reach further into the community. So extension courses are a way to take what we've learned and turn around and share it and equip others. Now, I mentioned that we are able to share with the body of Christ and invite them into the richness of what we've learned. What is really exciting is because it's an extension course, we can also invite non-believers. And that has ended up being such a joy for us. I'll tell you the story of what we've been doing with extension courses in our College of Education. Teachers are very busy people and they are in high demand. There's always a need for teachers. And so it's hard for them to stop what they're doing and go somewhere else for a long period of time, especially. And so being able to take a course out onto the field to train them while they're teaching, it opens up the possibility for them to attend, and it opens up more and more connection for them to put into practice what they're doing already. And so we have found such an incredible response when we offer this course. Everybody wants help with education, right? But they don't come to the U of N to take degree courses because they're busy and because our teacher qualifications don't fit in with their national certification process. So we've been able to position this and end up being invited to work with governments, being able to work with whole school associations. It's just been amazing. And we've seen non-Christians coming to our training and their hearts just melting, saying, oh, I didn't know that's what Jesus was like. So we've found it an incredibly effective way to fulfill a part of our Great Commission, which is to preach the gospel and to disciple the nations. So it's a practical tool that we can use with great effectiveness. Now, as Miriam mentioned, we can take those courses and earn U of N credits, and they can possibly be included in a degree plan. So when you talk to YWAM staff and when you talk to the community, you can say, this is an extension course of the University of Nations, and you can earn University of Nation credits. They are extension course credits. Okay, so everybody, the people outside the U of N and our own staff will receive credits in a certificate from the U of N, but for them and for us, for those credits to be recognized and included in a degree program, the dean of the college that oversees that degree program will have to make that decision, just like they would for any other non-U of N degree course credits that we would like to use. So it has just been a wonderful, new, flexible tool that we can make good use of. So I encourage you, a lot of the less formal training that we do that aren't full degree courses, this is a great way to be able to share it. This course, this staff training course, is actually being registered as an extension course. And so there's the possibility of each of you, if you complete it and do the homework and attend all the courses and whatnot, to receive extension course credits. So it's a wonderful new possibility for us, and we look forward to seeing more and more of these courses made available out of the richness of what we have been learning in our degree courses. So I'm excited about it. Yeah, I think that's probably the best general things I can say. I'd be happy to talk with you more about it. I know Miriam would, any of us would. Yeah, so there it is.
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. That was really good. It's nice to hear how it works, you know, and how some of it is a little bit different, but how it actually comes together well for us. Now we're going to have a bit of our time for asking any questions. So all those questions that you've been waiting to ask.
Or writing in the chat.
Or writing in the chat. That you would like to continue to ask, please, this would be the time.
Okay.
Brad will facilitate our question asking time. And so I'm going to hand it over to Brad.
Thank you, Anna and Melinda, for leading the session through. Thanks for Lisa and Melinda and Miriam for great presentations. And hopefully that's already answered a lot of your questions. I remembered one of the comments that I was reminded of while Miriam was sharing. And when she talked about the cross-cultural requirement, I have some communication come through my email inbox from other universities or from sort of journals related to universities. And one thing I noticed recently is universities other than YWAM, other than the U of N, are starting to realize that they have to prepare their students to be able to work cross-culturally. They recognize that we live in a global community. And so it's starting to, this aspect of cross-cultural preparation is starting to come into other universities as well. But we've been doing it for a long time. It's a value, it's that we have, it's part of who we are as missions. And that's why we do it. We may change the way we do it a little bit, but we will always have this as a part of our degrees. So let's open it up. I think if someone has a question, they'll need to put up their hand using the reactions. Just raise your hand. You can speak in your own language. I think we have enough time to do this as consecutive translation so that we can take the time to do that. I can hear it in English and I can give my answer back. So if that's going to work, Adriana, I think that's probably the way we'll do it for this question time. So let's start. Claudia, you have a question.
Actually, I have two.
Even better.
The first is regarding extension studies. I'd like to know a bit more of the reason for the criteria. I work with seminars for a long time, and there is a criteria of 25 hours, if I'm not mistaken. I just wanted to understand the reasoning behind it and whether there would be other possibilities of shorter seminars that could also receive credit. So just to understand that. And the second one, I would like to understand more, how would it be to have this core curriculum courses online? I know there are some. I know the BCC, for instance, I think they're running online. And I'd like to know also how that works. Who could guide me into turning the Worldview School into an online course, for instance?
Could someone please translate? I'm sorry, let me just check. Adriana, was the question being translated?
No.
Okay, we need someone to translate the question as well. I think I may have been wrong in suggesting we do.
Just a second, Brad. So did I understood correctly that the question was not translated?
That's what I was asking. Was it?
A pergunta foi traduzida?
Okay.
Foi.
All right.
So I think the question was translated into Portuguese and I guess in Spanish as well. So what we do is when the next person comes and if he asks in Spanish or Portuguese, then we can do consecutive. But for now, just keep as it is. Would that
Good.
be okay?
Thank you. Let me answer the first of Claudia's questions about extension studies and the credits. The 25 hours per credit for extension studies is because extension studies courses don't have a lot of the live-in components that our full learning week courses have. The courses where we have students come and live with us on the base, they worship with us, pray with us, do work duties, etc. That's the full learning week. The extension studies, because people come and just do a few hours a week, one night a week, or they might do them online. Some of those other components that are normal in our on-base courses are not there. So when these were set up, they worked out 25 hours per credit for those components, the key learning components, compared with the 50 hours when it's a live-in kind of situation. Now, all this is actually being talked about a little bit more right at the moment for the next development of your event. We're trying to work out some of these differences that are perhaps not being understood. So we're working our way with these, and there might be some changes you'll see in the future. So if you want to develop a shorter in terms of hours seminar, then you've still got to consider, is this going to be happening on my base? Is this a live-in? Then you'll still be 50 hours for that one credit because of all those other factors. But if you're doing it in a different kind of model, like this course is being done, then you might look at 25 hours per credit. We've registered this course with extension studies as 2 credits because that involves both the classroom time that we're having with you and the homework that we're getting you to do. So that's kind of how it works. If you want to talk more and find out more about extension studies, you can go to the Extension Studies website, and someone like Phil Leach will be able to advise you a lot more on that. And especially with online courses, Phil can advise you a lot with the registration of that. Adriano can advise with many of the technical aspects of doing online courses. So does that answer your question, Claudia, on that one?
Yeah, just because when we do a full learning week, there are some seminars that are 15 hours teaching. So without this, 15 hours teaching and like a bit more learning activity, like 20. So it's just because I find a bit, can be difficult to fill 25 hours teaching and activities for people that are not in a full learning week.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm looking forward for the next developments.
I'm happy if you also send me an email to tell me a bit more about what you're thinking, and I can connect you up with others or try to answer some of that myself.
Well, and Brad, you don't have to have a full 25 hours. I mean, if it's a little bit less, it's okay, right? Or are they supposed to count for 25 hours?
I would not state that absolutely.
Okay.
Not without checking it out. I think it is 25 hours.
Okay.
But you had a second question about core courses and online. Melinda, are you able to answer that?
There are core courses being run online. I don't know the quality or the development of them. I don't know if they're registered under extension studies. There is, for example, a very clear developed extension studies Bible core course through King's Lodge with Phil Leach in the extension studies program. But a lot of schools have moved online during the pandemic, which I really don't know anything about. necessarily.
I know of a few locations that have started that, and they are offering some of the core courses, like the Worldview School. They have Australia there online. It's run, I think, at least twice now. They're running some a year-long program out of Asia, actually,
Yeah,
with David Hewitt,
yeah, that's a good one.
that has the 3 core courses as
Yeah.
well. But like I said, we're not completely sure on the 50-hour learning weeks and whether they're U of N like registered as well.
I don't think they are.
Mhm.
Taking David's program as an example, and this could be helpful for everybody, so I will take some time to explain it. They are, I mean, for one thing, during this COVID period, we're allowing some flexibility that normally schools that will be run as full learning weeks are using online tools to run those, but still trying to incorporate in some way all of those components that are normally part of a 50-hour week. With the courses there in Malaysia, they are registered in more than one way. They are registered as full learning weeks, and some of the students are doing it as a full learning week, and they're doing things on their base. You know, it's a number of different bases, and they'll be doing all of those other components to do that full learning week. But they've also registered an extension studies version, and that's 25 hours a week, but it doesn't include those. When it comes to
Brad.
bring,
Oh, just slow down just a little bit for translation.
okay, sorry. So with those ones that are registered as extension studies, at the moment, they would have to be transferred in to a degree. They're not automatically meeting the core course requirements. That's one of the complications that we're trying to work through at the moment. So there is, but there are some viable courses online that also include those other components, and those ones are registered as full learning weeks. So online courses in particular are going to continue to grow. These opportunities are good and we want to pursue them. But it's an area that we're just seeing more develop and needing to talk more and set some new structures in place to help these happen.
Okay, so as far as understood, it's not officially yet that we have courses that meet the core course criteria online. Is that so? Unless it's an exception like last year.
Yes.
So, okay. Yeah, because there are requests of people asking about that, and Worldview School online because they want degrees. So I can't tell them, okay, we are having this. So far, they need to come for a full learning week, traditional 12-week school, right?
Yes, apart from the COVID exceptions that we have at the moment.
Okay, cool, thank you, that helps.
Okay, Diana, I'm going from what is left to right on my screen. Diana, you have a question?
Gente, bom dia. Eu tenho uma pergunta, eu não sei se foi falado, minha internet caiu algumas vezes, mas uma pessoa que faz um seminário, que é aberto a pessoas que não fizeram ETED, que não são jocumeiras, ela pode voltar em um próximo seminário e servir nesse seminário? Que ela sirva em curso da Universidade das Nações, ela precisa.
Já não deu para ouvir, não.
But I think I can answer.
Ter passado pela ETED.
I'm going to try to answer and Brad can fill in. The question was, if someone that doesn't have a DTS comes to do a seminar. It's a short course that non-DTS students can be included. If that person can later on come back and staff that seminar. In my opinion, I would say that the leader of any YWAM, any U of N should be a YWAMer. Okay, the leader and the main staff, if they have contact with the student, they have to be YWAMers to have our DNA. So they need a DTS. But yes, you can include a person without a DTS to be staff in things that are hospitality and helping with a lot of other aspects of the seminar, and even teaching some parts of that seminar, but never leading a ULOFN seminar.
Yeah, that's correct, Mary. So does that answer your question, Diana?
Sim. Obrigada.
Good.
I think she's frozen.
What she answered.
No.
Okay, once your question is answered, if you could put your raised hand down, if you're happy, we'll do that. The next one along is Clever.
So we are in a moment where we have the pandemic over the world. I know in some cases, the university is allowing to run the course in an online mode, but I would like to hear from you, the provost office. What are the concernings about it? You know, because we are living a moment before the pandemic, where we are having a large amount of trainings course that are available online, and University of the Nations is not inside of this mode. I know also we have the extension course is a way to help this tension, but I would like to hear and to get more understanding about it, please.
This has been an issue that had a lot of talking. It wasn't just from the Provost's office, the President's office, and the core international leadership team. We all talked about this. And when the pandemic first started, we all, I think, had hopes that it wouldn't be as long as it has been, or some people had hopes that it wouldn't be as long as it has been. We didn't know exactly what we'll be facing in this. We recognized that some courses still wanted to run. So we made that allowance that they could use online tools to run a course. And that was the kind of phrase we used. It's not like we've got to be careful here. An online course is often something that just happens online. You know, all the information's online, you go and read it, you fill out your assignments, and it happens that way. There's sometimes not much connection between the course, the people who own the course and those who are doing the course. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a course where there is still school leaders and school staff meeting with the students. The students are in an environment where they're learning and growing and applying what they're learning in their online sessions. The hours are very similar to a full learning week. You're doing the training within your usual 5 days with somewhere between 12 and 20 hours of lecture or classroom time. You're still doing intercession together. You're still doing small groups together. All of those things that are normally part of one of our courses, but using online meeting tools and online assessment tools to make them happen. That's what we're talking about, saying that these courses that are normally on a base, face-to-face, can run online, but you're trying to do it as much as possible, the same aspects in your course that you would normally have there. If those are not possible, yes, you can still running a course using online tools, but if those other components are not there, it's probably best to register that in extension studies and not as a full learning week. So it's a decision each base has to make for themselves. If they want to continue with it being a full learning week during this time, then we have to work to build all of those components into the course, or as much as possible that would normally be there. That's the kind of exception that we're looking at. Now, as this has gone on further, we have people in situations where they've been pursuing degrees. And so some of that's been affected. They haven't been able to travel to some of the nations they might have done for their cross-cultural learning. They may have had to do some things in an online way that's not full learning week. So we're just having to deal with each of those situations as they come up and try to find answers, understanding what's been happening, but still maintaining the values, the requirements that we have always had as much as we possibly can, so that we're not losing what those values bring to us in our training.
Thank you. It makes sense to me.
Good. I'm glad. Jimmy, I think you are next.
Gracias. Mi pregunta es, entendiendo que la DTS o la EDEM es la puerta y la entrada a Jucum, ¿cuál sería entonces la edad, digamos, mínima aceptable para que alguien puede tomar una EDE y por consecuencia una escuela secundaria, pensando que eventualmente tal vez madres solteras llegan a Jucum con sus hijos y entonces tal vez su hijo puede participar en la EDE y tal vez alguna base puede validar.
Participate of the DTS, but how can we validate? So let me be clear, I'm talking about like a 13-year-old child. So would it be okay for him to take the DTS alongside his mom or dad? So is that?
Gracias.
Brad, were you able to hear the translation?
I did not hear. I would like to hear a translation. I did not hear it.
Does any of the Spanish speakers could translate that into English?
He did. I heard the question, Brad. Your English channel needs to be changed. So his basic, which I can try and help you answer, Jimmy, and Brad, you can jump in, and any others who were there. Yeah. But the question generally was, what if a single mom, for example, wants to do a DTS and she has a 13-year-old child? Could the child do the school with and get credits for that? Or what is the basic minimum age of people joining the university or doing a DTS specifically?
Why don't we let Carlina answer it from a DTS perspective?
Yeah, for us, we don't have a minimum wage, but at the same time, I don't know if a 13 years old is able to finish the school and to take the DTS at the same time. So for example, we are allowed to receive it, but I don't believe that we wanted to honor the family. We wanted to have them, but we also wanted to encourage the student, the son or the daughter, to finish their regular studies before they came to our university. So we have another programs for teenagers. We have Mission Adventures, we have King's Kids, and we have other ways. And I don't see a way, because the DTS is a personal decision. We cannot just, oh, the mother is doing, let's help the son or daughter to make it right now. So in my opinion, and I think I can talk as DTS center right now, it's better if the kid just finish the school or be involved in the daily life in the base than just to take the DTS because the mother is taking the DTS. Let's help to facilitate it. And to be really honest, the base that is receiving this family needs to provide a good environment for the kid. So we need to be really honest. Can I receive this family? Can I receive this single mom? Because just to add the kid for as a student, it's not best way to serve this family.
Yeah. I would agree with that. From a university unit of the nation's point of view, we are a university. And university is usually started after high school. So even though it's not an absolute for DTS, for the university, certainly if you're pursuing a degree, you have to have graduated high school. Now, we know that that doesn't always work out for people in some nations and in some socio-economic areas. So for those students, we work with that. And we find other ways to make sure that they are able to fulfill an education at a university standard. Now, that's not saying that there's a 16 or 18 or 13 year limit on DTS. I think for DTS, Carlinhos' answer was very good. I would also want to encourage a 13-year-old to finish high school and then do DTS. The part of the reason why we can't set that absolutely is because finishing high school means different ages in different countries. So it's hard to be, you can't just set this as a rule. We've got to apply wisdom. And wisdom in this case might be that this 13-year-old, there's better things that we can do for them than to have them do a full DTS. Does that answer your question, Jimmy? Great. Diana, you have another chance to ask.
Tenho, gente. Tá dando para me ouvir direitinho? Minha internet está muito ruim.
Pode ir.
Voltando naquela questão das escolas online, eu não sei se eu entendi muito bem, mas eu sei que ainda não é oficial, porém, uma vez que se torne, como a gente conseguiria inserir na sessão, louvor, serviço na comunidade, e uma vez que a gente já sabe que a gente perderia na vida em comunidade, né? Eu sei que o período teórico a gente consegue inserir num curso online, mas uma vez que a escola ela carrega todo o nosso DNA, como a gente faria para inserir esses períodos que são tão importantes quanto o período teórico?
Yeah, that is the challenge for us. Some bases are doing it. I actually don't know the ways they're doing it. I haven't heard the detail of that. But you can do intercession together online. You can do worship together online. You can do small groups. Those things we can see ways. But the other aspects of community, and particularly when we get to outreach and application, a field assignment, that becomes much, much more difficult. With some schools, it can be possible. With other schools, it just doesn't work. So it really comes down to individual situations and working that through with wisdom. I would suggest any base that is trying to work that out. Maybe connect with someone from the college, talk with someone outside of someone else, and what are you doing? Let's just have a conversation about it, and try to ask God, is there a creative way to do this that doesn't compromise what you have said we should be? And if we can't, then that's really difficult for the moment, but that's where we're at. And for this period that the pandemic's going on, many things just can't happen, and we have to accept that. But then okay, Michelle, we'll come to that in a minute. I would also say, even though you can't do some things, God is still God in this time. So if we're not doing some things that we might normally do, what does God want us to do? And really go to him with that as well. Am I right in thinking, Michelle, you have an example to share?
Tio Michel, eu acho que eu tenho que dar um jeito aqui primeiro, peraí.
E então talvez outra pessoa vai traduzir.
Repete agora.
Ok? So, do you want me to speak English?
Vamos fazer consecutivo? E só enquanto você fala.
Tá bem. Então, a gente tem essa experiência aqui com a Escola de Desenvolvimento Comunitário do ano passado.
So we have this experience here with the Community Development School here from last year.
Nós oramos e sentimos que realmente tinha que ser feito.
We prayed and we felt that we should run the school.
Comunicamos com o pessoal do Centro de Desenvolvimento Comunitário, com a Christine.
We communicated with the CDC Center, Christine and Arnold.
E nós fizemos o seguinte: a escola é presencial para os alunos estão numa base.
So the students are in a YWAM base, they living in there, and for them is a residential course.
Então eles estão tendo toda a questão da comunidade e tudo mais.
So they have the live learn community experience.
Mas os professores estão vindo online.
But the speakers, they come online.
Mas a oportunidade que surgiu nisso é da gente fazer em parceria com outra base, que é a base de Vitória.
The opportunity that we had on this was to partner together with another YWAM base, the base in Vitória.
Então, ajudou a trazer unidade.
So it helped to bring unity among us.
E ajudou a gente a compartilhar os recursos, por exemplo, para honrar os preletores com uma oferta melhorzinha do que talvez fosse se fosse só nós.
And also with the opportunity to share resources in order to like have better honorariums for the speakers, for instance.
E então, assim, a questão do prático nas comunidades, a gente andou dentro das restrições.
So with the outreaches in the communities where we go, we had to go under the current restrictions.
Então, a gente fazia visitas a famílias individuais.
So we did visits to homes as individuals.
E fazia muitas caminhadas de oração, coisas que dava para fazer.
Many prayer walks and other things that we were able to do.
A gente entende que é limitado, não é o ideal que a gente gostaria.
We understand that it's a limited situation. It's not like what we would like to.
Mas a gente também tem sido desafiado a pensar nisso que o Brad está falando, o que é que Deus tem, porque nós precisamos pensar fora da caixinha e nos adaptar à situação.
But we were also challenged to think, like Brad was sharing, to think outside the box and see what God has in that situation so we can adapt ourselves to it.
Exemplo.
This is just an example.
Before Carlinha says something, let me just say, it comes down to how much we in our heart value the things God has said the U event is meant to be.
Então, no fim, isso tem a ver e no quanto no nosso coração a gente está valorizando as coisas que Deus falou que é para a Universidade das Nações ser.
We don't look at these things as the rules that we have to satisfy for a school, but the valuable things God has given us in our schools.
We are back to normal translation. You can
Okay.
go.
So if that is a basis, then we can ask God, are there ways we can do this? Are there new ways so that we can do something differently, but still be the same? Carlina, there was something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I was going to share something in the light of what you just spoke. Why I wanted to have these courses? Is because we wanted to serve more people, or because we wanted to fit them in something new that maybe God's not inviting us to do? Because if God's inviting us to take this step, He's going to lead us, He's going to give grace, creativity. And many times we see the pressure around us. Oh, everybody's going online. Everybody's doing these things. We need to do this also. So it's really key to answer the questions. Why do you want to offer it? It's the season. As a base, we have everything that we need to promote a good environment for our online course. And to be really honest, because we are the University of the Nations, and of course, I believe you are going online more and more in the next season. But at the same time, we need to be really honest to ourselves, why I wanted to do it. And also, I wanted to reinforce, Brad spoke many times, and Lisa, and also Miriam. We need to grow in the relationship to the colleges and centers. Because many times we have a great idea, and we start to do everything before we reach out to them. And, oh, they're not approving what we're doing. We're not asking what we're requesting. But if you build a relationship before, they're going to serve us in a good way to help us to multiply and to fulfill the requirements. So this relational piece is really key.
Yeah. Thank you, Carlini. That was a very valuable addition. So I don't see any more hands raised with questions. Are there others?
Daniel, do you still have a question? Or did it get answered?
Is he still with us?
Yes, he is, but he says a translator right now. Let me make sure we can hear him now. Daniel, ¿tú tienes una pregunta?
Ay, lo siento. Sorry. It was answered, so I put my hand down.
Okay. Now, Tulio. Yep.
Hi. I have a question about when you pioneer like a new school. If you have experience in, I don't know, in the field or outside of YWAM in other schools or pastoring or something, and if you build like a new school, then like you start with the centers and the colleges and you have advising and you start a new school. But you can you have the credits of the school that you created? Or I don't know, later someone else lead the school so that you can be students? Because if you were also aiming or pursuing like a grade, those credits are important. So that's my question.
Yep. Simple answer, yes, you can. But let me tell you how. In the Your reference guide, I don't remember what page, there's something for credit related to pioneering a new school. But just remember that the idea within that is that you are doing the work, the same work as the other students, right? You're the school leader. You may not record yourself as a student in the way that they are, but you will want to be learning as well. You will want to be doing the homework as part of your learning. So do as much of that as you can so that it's a learning experience for you and you're not just managing and administering what else happens. But for you, you are a learner just like your students. That's the idea behind it. And we can recognize that through this pioneering credit that we have.
Great, thank you.
Karen. Oh, sorry, Miriam has a comment to add to that one.
I want to make a comment about something different. It's about extension studies. And it's extension studies, not extensive studies. Extensive is something that when you're covering a large area or a large amount, that's extensive. Extension is when you extend ourselves beyond ourselves to reach others. Okay, so when you talk about extension studies or when you translate appropriately, understanding the meaning behind it. Okay, so it's not a course that is done over an extended time of period or covering an extensive amount of information. It's us as the ULOFN extending ourselves to reach others in the body of Christ. So it's estudios de extensión ou cursos de extensão. Okay.
That's great distinction, Miriam. Let me just
so
add,
good.
An extension studies course cannot be more than 6 credits. So there is a limit as to even within the setup as to how extensive it can be. It cannot be as extensive as a full 12 credit course. They are smaller components. Karen.
A minha pergunta é ainda sobre curso de extensão. Eu queria saber, entender um pouco mais, como que eu faço para criar esse curso? Quais são os passos que eu devo tomar para criar esse curso, para começar um curso de extensão? Se eu devo contactar alguém, conversar com alguém, se eu sou direcionada para um lugar além da minha base, como que eu faço, quais são as pessoas com quem eu interajo, né, para começar esse curso de extensão?
Lisa, did you want to answer that since you were talking about extensions courses?
I pushed the wrong button to unmute myself. There is a different registration system called the ES Extension Studies System. And we can post the link, the address. You will.
It's in the chat.
Sorry.
The website is in the chat already. Just scroll up and they'll find it.
Great. It is a similar process as a full learning week. You're asked to communicate what is the purpose of the course, what are your objectives or outcomes, how will you reach them? So it's very similar. What I would recommend is what's already been mentioned is before you start from scratch, that you check in with the dean or the center director to see what is already being offered that might be comparable and how it connects in with other coursework, that kind of thing. So there's lots of flexibility, but we do want to keep mindful of what else is happening in the university. So as Brad has mentioned, these things are being discussed and perhaps adjusted, but I think that process will stay the same, that you do have a course registration process that you can start by looking at the link, but I would start first by talking to the dean or center director. And I suppose we could post a list of the contacts for each of the colleges and who the deans are, and we'll put that in the Google Classroom.
Okay.
Obrigada.
Well, if there are no more questions at this point, that's a good thing. We can finish that little bit early. But let me just say, hopefully you have the email address. I'll come to you in a moment then, Tulio, if you have another question. Hopefully you have my email address, perhaps the others from my team. Miriam is someone else. If you have some questions, then you can contact one of us and we can either answer it or direct you to the person who can. So you don't have to live in the U of N with unanswered questions. There's always someone you can connect to and ask. Don't just sit back and, oh, I don't know how to do this. I'm not sure how this works. The reference guide is a good place to look for answers. And we are working at getting updated translations done. But if you don't know, and it's not in the reference guide, or you don't have that reference guide in your language, talk to one of us and we will work out ways to answer your questions. Tulio, you have another question.
Yes, I just came up with another question. Above all, in those periods of pandemic that international travels, there are restrictions and you cannot, it's more difficult to travel and all those things. Like, if I want to have a school in my campus, like, is the only way of having this school, like I need to go there and do the school as a study and then I can, like, I should staff in the school, or could have another way that I can go and have like a school in my campus. In example, I mentioned the Bible preaching and teaching school. That is a school that I'm very interested about because it's like core curriculum in communication and also mentions the Bible. That is like my area. But I have seen that there's very few opportunities to do the school worldwide. And mostly are in English or like in the US or Asia. There's very far and like the expensive flights and costs and anything. Like, I mean, is there another way or another process we could like have to make easier this process of pioneer or bring in another school? Because I worked with, like, for many years with Titus Project that has some aspects of the Bible teaching and preaching school, but it's very shorter. Yeah, that's my question.
Yes, let me say one thing about what qualifies you as a school leader. Actually, I might need to say more than one thing. But often we have this understanding in the U of N that you have to do a school, staff a school before you can lead a school. That is one way to develop as a school leader. It's not the only way to develop as a school leader. If you look in it's in the reference guide, it's got qualities of a school leader. There are things like that you have the DNA of the school, that you have learned what is being taught in the school normally. I mean, like we said before with pioneering, maybe you'll be a student on the school you staff because sometimes we haven't learned it all. But if you're planting a school that's already existing elsewhere and you've already learned all those things, you already have experience of leading schools, these are the elements that we would be looking for in a school leader. So again, I encourage, have a conversation with the college, have a conversation with those that are running that course around the world. Tell them, hey, I have a heart to pioneer this in my location and in my language. how can you help me do that? And try to work with that to see if you can make it happen. Let
Okay,
me
thank
just
you.
add one other thing. Oh,
I just,
Anna,
yeah,
I mean,
let me
Melinda?
add to that because I love pioneering schools and I love pioneering them in countries where people can't really go abroad a lot to do that. And that's how we ended up here. Ask them to come and help you. Ask them to come make a plan with them is usually what we do is we make a plan. We'll come run the first school and you'll be a student and then we'll work together with you since you have like leadership and stuff. We'll teach you what it looks like to be a staff and help you out and all these things. Make a plan with them and see if they will come to you and ask them to if they can help you with that. Or if nothing else, they can't come to you, then ask them to make a plan for
people that
how they can serve you in this way. Because as a school leader, I want my school to be multiplied. And if you have the heart for a school, I would want to serve you in that regard. So ask them to help you with a plan for something like that.
Yeah, I was just wondering, maybe even during this pandemic, and we have a lot of this online training, like that maybe we could, I know, have meetings with the school leader and see like these aspects of the school, these teachings you already are instructed into. I mean, you can manage this. You're lacking this area. Maybe even organize online training that the school leaders can share, so that we can incorporate the weak areas to have a school in my location.
All of these are possibilities, and it's just, as we say, getting creative to find the right answer for your situation. The other thing I was going to comment isn't so much a direct answer to Tulio as a connection with a number of the questions that have come up. We're talking about relating to the college. And at the moment, we've got like, here's the base. And over here, some distance away is this idea of the college. Now, for a start, the college is people who loves training, who love schools and want to see it grow. So you can talk to them, they're real people. But another thing that's happening as a part of this development of the U of N is that we want to see other places in between. We've got the global colleges. We want to see colleges growing and developing in regions so that there's people a little bit closer to you that you can be talking to. That's one part of the heart of what we are. When the U of N started, we weren't in this many locations. We didn't have this many schools. You know, I can remember in 2000, Bruce Thompson, Dr. Bruce Thompson had been leading the College of Counseling and Healthcare for many, many years. And he was one man who did a lot of work. And he came to us who were on the college committee and said, I can't keep doing this. We need more than one man. We need multiple people. And the college committees stood up to those roles. We're like that with the whole U of N at the moment. We want to see more people standing up into the roles of colleges, academic advisors, provost office, all of these functions that I talked about in the structure. We want to see multiplication of those and people being able to fulfill those kinds of roles at regional levels. We're still talking about how all that will happen, but that's a big heart of the way forward for us as a university. All right, we are nearly
Can I just add something on that, Brad?
Please.
We do have several core courses happening, available in Portuguese and Spanish right now, since this last few years. So you are all aware of on the Bible area, we have the BCC, SPS, DBS. On the Worldview, we have the HIS, SB, CW. On communication, we do have the ECF. We have the school SOFM. And we have as well one core course that are in community. Oh, sorry. translators. we love acronyms. Yeah, you get it. And we have a core course that Kleber is starting in Jocum Casa as well on the pretty soon. So there are many core course initiatives available in Portuguese and Spanish. So the distance is not that big right now. We can come together. We have been talking on having a core curriculum leader circle, where if you are involving or if you are interested in multiplying core courses into your area, you can join together as a circle and start conversations, partnerships, do things together to have more of these courses available in the continent and beyond. So let's continue the conversation. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity to have this circle coming together where we can bring that conversation to the next steps, the partnerships and doing things together.
I really want to commend Adriano and Carlinha and others in the work they've been doing over a number of years now to really see the U of N grow across South America. It's one of the areas of the world where we're seeing change happening, and we're seeing multiplication of core courses and other courses, and just greater awareness of the U of N and equipping of staff and all of that. So, you know, let's say, hey, well done to you guys. Now, I notice Kleber has a hand up. That's going to have to be the last one that we have time for today.
Yeah, I just want to share my experience. So here in Brazil, we are having a great opportunity with UniKeep because it's bring closer relationships with different colleges and centers, and we are being able to implement course here, but it's happened because of relationship. People are really open to bless and to come over. I found a friend, now he's my friend. He was saying to me, I was praying for Brazil more than 5 years to go there and to plant the school. And now the Lord's giving me this opportunity. Let's do it together. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kleber. Yeah. Again, this is what we're saying about who the U of N is. We are a family. We are a relationship. We support each other. It's not someone at the top saying, oh, we need a school over there. It's you saying, I want a school here. Who can I talk to? And building those relationships. And we all want that multiplication. We all really care about seeing more and more people reached through the U of N and be transformed or equipped for their role in transforming the nations. I'd like to invite everybody to pray right now, right? With your mute on, just for a couple of minutes as we finish, just pray for these aspects of multiplication and of the way God is leading the U of N in this next phase of growth, the kinds of things that we've talked about. We are not just a structure, we are movement as well. We are family as well. We are organic. Let's just really get behind the U of N where we are and in our region and just see God multiply and work in it. So let's all just pray for a couple of minutes and then I will conclude that as our last. Oh no, I'll ask Anna and Melinda to conclude at the end.
Feel free to unmute yourself and let's just pray.
Queremos darte gracias por la Universidad de las Naciones, por el Espíritu Santo, es tu Señor que nos muestres el camino. Queremos estar en una universidad que si no está de la mano con tu Señor. Pedimos Espíritu Santo que nos guíe, que nos muestre tu favor. Gracias, Señor, a caminar solo.
é o comunicador, é aquele que
bendiciones y cada uno de los que están desarrollando.
grande oportunidade. Muito feliz de falar
Para que o Cristiano está fazendo uma aplicação de
precisa, Senhor Deus, ser capacitado. A gente precisa, mas consigo conseguir confiar, ó Deus, naquilo que o Senhor deseja para nossas vidas. Então, que isso simplesmente mesmo através de nós, nos impulsiona, Deus, nos move mesmo, Deus, com o teu espírito, mesmo engajado, Deus, levante mesmo pessoas, levante mesmo guerreiros, levante líderes, sejam mesmo dispostos, Deus, a estar aqueles que já estão em nós, aqueles que já estão nos revestir, ó Deus, em nome de Jesus, não sabemos sozinhos. Muito obrigado, Pai.
Aprendices, Señor.
Thank you that you are doing something in this whole aspect. And Father, that you've spoken to us even in the beginning of this time, that you are doing new things. And Father, I pray and I ask that you continue to stir us up to see clearly what you are doing. Yes. That you would continue to bind us together, South America together, to know and to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder and walk towards where you are calling us, to lift one another up, to champion one another, and to see the ways forward, to see the transformation happen in the nations of the world. And Father, I really feel your calling, God, that you are doing something new. And so, Father, I ask for that impartation. God, I ask for that clarity. And Father, we say we love you. And we recognize that whatever it is, you make it possible. And as we come and listen to you, you will show us how to go forward. You will make these things come together. Yes, God. Through us being united in one spirit, one mind. And I thank you for that. Yes, Jesus. Amen. That was really great. I had it on my heart, Brad. I was like, oh, we got to pray. We need to pray for this.
Yeah. Hey, can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
For next session, I want you to think about your favorite meal. And I want you to bring an ingredient and a spice that makes part of that favorite meal for you.
Great.
So, yeah.
Okay, so Lisa will be teaching in the next session. Thank you guys for today. And I also sent an email for a homework assignment for tomorrow. It's nothing too difficult.
Tomorrow morning.
But it's for tomorrow morning, yes. But we look forward to seeing you again soon and praying that you will hear clearly how God is directing you personally, but also corporately. Love you. Have a good afternoon.
Wonderful afternoon. And we won't see you this evening, but we'll see you tomorrow morning. So enjoy Lisa.
Bye.
The core team stays so that we can have our little meeting.
Okay.